Hi, welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me as Skeindeer on Instagram and Ravelry. And there's also the Ravelry group Skeindeer Knits, where we are currently hosting a mitten knit along. And I've basically opened just about every episode lately with that KAL. I'm not going to go into detail now. You can just start watching a past episode and hear more about it, or just head to the KAL in the group. But I want to say I am trying to decide on a finishing date, so just thought I'd put that out there. So I believe that's the 31st of March, so if you can finish by then, I think, yeah, that's the date I've settled on. If you disagree about that date, I am happy to change it. It's really all the same to me, but you know, at some point we have to close things up and start handing out the prices, so I've landed on that date, and yeah, I'm happy to change it if you think I should. Yeah, welcome back to this podcast, and welcome to those of you who are new to this podcast. So yeah, just to give you a heads up, this is a bit of a sort of traditional old school style podcast. So I'm very much about colour work and traditional knitting and rustic yarns, so just be prepared for that. I mean, there's a little bit of everything here. I do soft doweling and more modern knitting as well, but that's probably not the focus here. So if that's not your thing, then of course there's plenty of podcasts that already cover what you're into, I'm sure. So yeah, let's get right into it. I want to apologize for the sound. I hope and I believe you can't hear it, but there's been a little ringing that's been going on for more than 24 hours now. It started yesterday, and I thought it was initially maybe me having a slightly louder tinnitus than usual. I don't really have tinnitus, but if I'm going to bed and it's really quiet, I can hear some ringing in my right ear, but it's never been to the point that's bothered me. And now it's just really loud and everywhere, and I realized it's not me, it's coming from outside, and this has just been going on for such a long time. And yeah, my boyfriend could hear it, my friend who was visiting yesterday could hear it. It's such a pain. I hope this is not going to be recorded in this podcast, and if it is, I am truly sorry. I might give an angry phone call to the local council after this episode, because it's gonna drive everybody nuts. Okay, so I guess before we get into the meat of the podcast, I can't really find the words to express my gratitude to everybody who's been getting so enthusiastic about the Mitten KAL and purchasing my mitten pattern. I just have this one paid for pattern, and it's just so like crazy. I really just found like a gap in the market with that pattern, really, because you know, I've said before, there's not really much help coming from sort of the big yarn companies when making mitten patterns from Norway. They hardly translate it, and if they are, you know, they say cast on this number of stitches and knit from chart. Yeah, so I'm kind of happy to have been able to help people out, those of you who have wanted to make these mittens and now feel like you have the confidence and the resources that you need to do so. And it makes me so happy to see how all those mittens are now knitting up in the KAL. You've all linked your projects to the pattern that I have, which is, you know, kind of a criteria for winning, for being in the price draw for the KAL, and also posting in the finished objects thread. And I keep seeing all the mittens there, and it's just, you guys are really good. Like those, it looks like you've done color work many times over, yet you tell me that you haven't, and I'm like, that's just crazy. So yeah, it just makes me really happy. And also related to that, actually, I am redoing my knitting classes at Knit with Attitude in London. So that's in Stoke Newington in London. You can get the by bus or the overground train, which is linked to the tube system. So if you're ever interested in taking part of that, you can go to Knit with Attitude's website and sign up. I feel a bit naughty for like opening up the podcast with that kind of thing, because it's not, the point of my podcast has never been to like plug my business, because I didn't have a business when starting out, and it's just something I'm thinking about doing now. But I am hosting these classes, so if you are in London or near London at the end of March, beginning of April, then that's something that would be super cool if you would want to go to. So yeah, going back to my whole gratitude ramble, I can't even tell you just how cool it is to see that you guys are knitting those mittens, and how cool they are looking, and how you are being really brave with the yarn that you're choosing. And also, like, I don't know if you're selling patterns of Ravelry, but if you have, you know, you can see all the purchases listed. just to make your finances easier, but you can also see whether someone have bought the pattern or gifted the pattern. And I'm seeing a number of you have actually gifted the pattern to someone else, and that is like a whole other level of wow, that's it's such a compliment to me, and it's just so nice to see that people are so nice. So thank you everybody. And today I'm gonna give a shout out to my mum. She doesn't know about this podcast, and to be fair, we don't always see eye to eye. I mean, I am a very, high level knitter. I don't know if what that means, but she does not knit. However, she's been working on this cardigan. It's like a huge color work cardigan in Dale Falk yarn, and she's been working on this since 1994, and it's for the Winter Championship in 1995. And she finished it now. She finished it like yesterday or something. Posted a picture on Facebook. So given that she's not really worked on that thing much since 1994 and just picked it up recently to do the finishing touches, I think that tells you so much about knitting and how it just stays with you, stays in your hands and your fingers, and you have this sort of physical memory of it. And yeah, I just want to I guess applaud her for actually finishing that thing. It's been a long time coming, and the yarn is fabulous. I think Dale Falk is a amazing yarn. It's one of those superwash DK weight yarn, borderline maybe sport weight, that feels really woolly despite its superwash treatment. It's not overdone, and yet it feels really soft and works really well with color work. And I'm really wanting to make a big chunky cardigan for myself in that yarn or something similar. Gosh, I really don't have much to talk about in this episode, so it might be one of the rare really short ones, because I have only been working on 2 projects this week. One of which is of course the Snow Melt shawl by Helen Stewart. So she is running a mystery knit along where people are knitting her shawl, and I opted for the La Bien-Aimée yarn that she had used herself, the same colorways and everything. So far I am keeping up with the KAL. I am knitting a Q a week. That's how frequently they're being published, and I am ready for the final Q5 that should be up tomorrow. So, well, that's today for those of you watching this on Thursday. So I'm going to show you the shawl now, from everything from Q1 to Q4. So if you don't want to be spoiled, then look away. But Q5 is not here. I have not started that yet, because when I'm recording this, it's not up yet. Here we go. Ta-da! Look at that! And I just love how it goes with a lot of the things that I wear, because it has this grey and blue in it. So when I'm wearing plain grey, or black even, it goes really well with it. Kind of goes well with this burgundy, even there's no burgundy in it. So yeah. So it started off with this bit up here. It's just like stripy bits, and then we have more stripes. And there's lots of eyelets, and here we have the first lace section and the second one, which I love. I think the second bit, let's have a close up. I showed you last time, but can't really repeat this too much, I think. And the final bit was very simple, which was perfect. That's exactly what I needed. I am expecting tomorrow's Qs to probably be more of a lace edging type of thing, so gonna be back to the more complicated stuff before I can actually cast this off and have a shawl for Edinburgh. Yeah, I'm not really like the kind of person to just bring a fancy shawl and bring it to a knitting event, partly because I actually haven't gone to that many knitting events. It was only in the past year I started going, and the other reason being I am not really a shawl knitter. That's just the recent thing. I'm getting the hang of it, and it's quite, yeah, cool. I like it. I've been having some, I guess, disappointment sometimes, but that's just giving me knowledge to do more what I want with shawls and know what I like and what I don't like. So I've not come across any bad patterns, which I've been super lucky, but I know that now I like a good symmetrical shawl. I just put the Snow Melt shawl away, by the way, for those of you who looked away, but I really do like the Snow Melt shawl because of that, because it's a symmetrical half circle, and that just makes me so happy. I really want to kind of dabble into that type of construction method for maybe my own future designs when I am more confident with shawl knitting. I don't want to put up a shawl pattern before I know what I'm doing, but that's just some thoughts that I'm having right now, and I already have this one idea. I actually have 2 ideas, and they are pretty good, but yeah, I need to be more knowledgeable before I get into that. So for the time being, I'm gonna stick to my color work mitten designs, because that's something I can do in my sleep. So, you know, that's my thing. So what's this other thing that I've been working on this week? I have been very good and picked up a UFO, a project that I started back in 2015. And so some of you might know, 2015, not my greatest year, and I cast on this project during the worst time in that year, and it may have carried those connotations that have made me not want to continue knitting it when I was starting to feel better. And I have just been brave and started knitting again, because there is a UFO KAL hosted by Sticky Therapy, which is a Norwegian video podcast and Instagrammer, Ein Kopp Tetak. You should check her out. And she's running a UFO KAL, and simultaneously Nordic Stitches and Arctic Knitting podcasts, they are hosting a kofta along. And I've said this before, but I want to do it again. A kofta is a Norwegian colorwork cardigan, although it can also be a jumper, but they tend to have a bit of buttoning here. So for instance, the cardigan that my mom had made, it's technically a jumper, but I'm translating it into cardigan because it's called a kofta, which is sort of like borderline sweater cardigan. That's a good example of a kofta. So they are running a KAL for that. They allow any size from like adult to child, so you could definitely join for a smaller one, or if you just knit really fast you could do a larger one as well, of course. And I decided to do a Skeindeer sized cardigan, so that's adult sized. And I picked up this. I had the yoke hanging over there since I moved in, but I made it in 2015, and I put on some sleeves. So yeah, now this this is actually a bottom-up cardigan, but I've gone over this before, but it's been a couple of episodes since, so you might be new to this podcast and you don't know the weird way that I do cardigans, kind of semi top down if they're supposed to be bottom up. So what I do is I use a provisional cast on with a scrap thread. So there's a method for that where you basically use a scrap yarn as the bit that keeps your stitches on while you cast on. If I can think of the name of the method, I will link to it. And I do that with all the yoke stitches. So if you were doing top down, that would be right before you are dividing into sleeves and the body. So I have actually knitted a bit down now, but yeah, everything around here I just cast on, and I knitted the cardigan up, because then the stitches are pointing in the right way and I can tell if the yoke will fit me. And I put the neck stitches on some circular needles that I never use because they are annoying, so that I can make the neckline after I've done the button bands, because I just kind of prefer that. And I'm happy that I did, because since casting this on I've changed my idea about what to do with the neckband. I'll get back to that. But I want to talk more about how I'm doing this then after I knit it up. You can't just do the neckband and cast off, but I just did this. After that, you pick up all the stitches and you divide into sleeves and body. So it's essentially what you do when you knit top down, if you've ever done that. If you haven't, it can be a bit confusing, but you can't really go wrong. The yoke is like, there's one seam that is almost invisible, so if you actually do it wrong, as long as the stitch count is right for the body and the two sleeves, it's fine. It might help if you actually don't top down first though. So now I'm doing the sleeves, and you do need to like recalculate the decreases a little bit and hope that, you know, you don't do them all in the beginning so that the sleeves become really tight. I can't say I've been successful at that, but I like to think that I am. And so this sleeve is almost done. So naturally, before finishing it, I just decided to knit the other one instead, putting off some decisions. So I've decided, and that's kind of related to the neckband as well, I don't want to do any rib on this one. So traditionally, you know, you have a rib around the neck, you have a rib for the button bands, and there's a rib for the cuffs and the bottom of the body. And I don't want to do that. So I'm thinking doing stocking knit, folding it over with a knitted together yarn over type thing that gives a nice sort of bumpy edge when you fold it over. I want to do that everywhere, but I also want to put some strand knitting on that. Could be a bit difficult. It's a bit of an experiment. And the reason why I've been so like active on this cardigan suddenly is it would be really cool if it was done by Edinburgh. I don't think it will be, but the motivation is there, so I'm just using that for what it's worth. And if I finish in time, that would be grand. If not, I have something to knit while I'm there. which to be honest is not going to be a problem anyway. But yeah, so I'm using Provisional CO. It's my favorite yarn, well at least it's like in the top 5. I don't know which other yarns that would be, but yeah, it's an amazing yarn. And I'm having this weird experience with it. Just I remember when I started knitting this, that was my first encounter with actually Provisional CO. I bought the yarn for a pair of mittens and this, and I made the mittens and I cast this on after that, and it was quite new to me, and using this sort of rustic yarn was very new to me. Well, I wasn't in that crowd that's like, oh, this is so scratchy, I need to get used to it, which is fine too. I wasn't feeling that. I was very much like in awe of the yarn. I found it amazing just how the stitches just lay out exactly where you want it. There's none of that weird sort of superwash effect where the stitches kind of seem a bit wonky and slippery. It was all just, this is not blocked, and I wasn't that skilled at color work at the time. And it just comes out perfect. It's just incredible how forgiving this yarn is. But even the sensations, I remember feeling that this was very hard. Not scratchy, but it was hard. And now I feel like it's literally soft. When I'm holding this, when I'm knitting it, it's like, yeah, it's soft is the best way I can describe it. It's not glossy soft, like, it's not like when you have those really luxury skeins. It's not that feeling, but I'm not feeling what I felt when I started knitting this, and that's kind of the point I want to get across. It's just like how that experience is completely different just after 2 years. I think that's really interesting, and it might just be me who have aged and that I've changed too, but yeah, I just really like that, how all those sensations kind of came rushing back at me when I picked this project up, and then remembering how what things were like before in terms of this fabric and me, and how it's changed. So I don't know, it's a bit wishy-washy, but hopefully you get what I mean. The pattern is Satin Star yoke, I think. It's a Norwegian only pattern, I'm afraid. There are various versions of the Satin Star pattern. There are yokes that are, you know, sewn in sleeves. Nobody really has the copyright of the Satin Star pattern. It's what the Marius pattern has been based on, and that pattern is definitely copyrighted. But the Satin Star pattern is not. It is a traditional pattern from the village. It's actually a valley Satin Star in southern Norway with lots of villages in, and they have had this cardigan pattern for ages, and it's only been like the recent few I say recent few decades, maybe the recent century to be honest. It started in the late 20s with this book about Norwegian knitting that kind of promoted the sweater, and that led to this design and a couple of others, and it kind of resurfaced every time this pattern was popularized. I guess they're kind of in the same category. And nowadays, like, you see people here in London wearing like clothes from, I don't know, Primark or whatever, with this pattern or an inspired pattern from this. Just like, this is completely bizarre to me, but it's cool. I think it's cool. Although I have a Primark jumpsuit that is like, you know, one of those onesies that it's like an adult sized baby suit. It pretty much has the Marius pattern on it, and I'm pretty sure Primark don't have the rights for that. But of course I bought it. It's like a men's size, but I still got it. So yeah, I'm just really proud of myself for having picked this up. I have no idea how realistic it is that I'm gonna finish in time for Edinburgh, because I'm leaving in less than a week. But the sleeves are gone by really quickly, and the body, even though it's like wider in stitch wise, it could be worked really quickly. And I have a couple of days, you know, before the festival when I'm leaving, so, you know, maybe I'll have time on the train and then when visiting a friend before Edinburgh. So there is still hope, and I'm going to use it for what it's worth, even though I will be probably a little bit distracted by this normal shawl when the last queue comes out, because I'm very, very eager to finish it, because it's been so enjoyable to make. I can't really put it into words. I've tried before saying like how it's so helpful and soothing to follow pattern. I would recommend it for anyone who's a bit hesitant about shawl knitting, and it has lace in it, and if you're not confident with lace, I think even then you can knit it, definitely. I'm kind of skipping between the two projects now, hopefully you follow me. One thing I would advise you if you're doing the normal shawl is to put some stitch markers dividing the lace sections, because it's just lace repeat, so these repeats you can separate, and then you know if you're on track with the stitch count and you know done the right amount of increases and decreases. So that really helped me and made it slightly less, I guess slightly more mindless, which is always nice. So yeah, I've been talking about Edinburgh a lot lately, and that's because I'm thinking about it a lot lately. And I'm a bit naughty now, because I am going to the knitting and stitching show. They have kindly given me a press pass, so who am I to say no? So I'm gonna really try to like work up my self-restraint there, because if I go binge buying there, you know, it's not gonna happen in Edinburgh, and I'd rather binge buy yarn there. Ooh, so it's gonna be a lot of watching and no touching. It's gonna be difficult. But it helps actually to have a press pass, because I don't feel like I need to make up for a ticket that I purchased. I have to like make it worth more than just the experience of being there. It's weird because financially I'm just gonna spend more money thinking that way. Hopefully you know what I mean. It's completely irrational. So that might actually help me, and I might just get to see stuff rather than buy stuff. But yeah, probably gonna buy a little bit, just a little bit, like a skein or two. So yeah, going to the knitting and stitching show. Probably on Saturday. I might change my mind. It depends on the person I'm going with as well, so yeah. So last episode I was a little bit naughty because I forgot to do a stash haul. I had bought these two skeins at Wild and Woolly in London. I'm kind of hoping to make a store sample of my mitten design for them so that they can sell my pattern, because that would be very nice, and they've been willing to. I also have two mitten samples actually at Knit With Attitude right now. That's kind of the shop that I'm most linked to, so that's where the classes will be, and that's where you have two samples of my mittens in two different yarns in two different sizes. So if you're in the area, you can actually see the mittens yourself and just figure out if you like them. But yeah, I kind of want to spread this around London a little bit. So I got this yarn from Wild and Woolly. So yeah, I really like this yarn. It's Faroese wool, but that's as closest to Norwegian wool as you get around here really. So I absolutely love it. And it's Navia Trio. So here we are, grey and a blue here. There's gonna be some lovely mittens. I don't know what to say about this wool really. It's got amazing meterage for a DKW yarn. It's 120. I think that's pretty good. Faroese wool. Also Australian lamb's wool, so it's a bit of a mix, which is pretty cool. It's lovely. I have a friend who is making a second pair of my mittens, and she's like my poster story of these mittens, because she made a pair initially from one of my test classes that I did before my actual classes, and you know, she had her struggles in the beginning. It was totally fine. She's not been knitting for that long, she says, and eventually now has been making a second pair of mittens from my pattern in this yarn, and they look really good. They look incredible, like as if she's done it forever. And those are the kind of things I'm seeing in the group lately, and it's super cool. But yeah, of course, if she's making amazing mittens in this yarn, I want to do it too. So got two skeins. Shouldn't be doing that before Edinburgh, should I? But yeah, I'm not gonna apologize, because I like buying yarn, and I feel like I've been reasonably good since New Year's. There was the whole binge purchasing in Norway, and I did order some from Germany that actually I could have done without, because it didn't actually work for what I wanted it to. And I'm getting the local yarn club from a homespun house, and I bought these two skeins. I can't think of anything else I bought apart from that, so I think I've been doing really good. Well done me. I'm patting myself on my own shoulders. That's not weird at all. So yeah, my little two skeins, they live in this Moomin bag, so that I can just grab this and cast on a pair of mittens whenever there is some spare time to do so. Might just bring these along to Edinburgh, I don't know. Another thing I purchased that's got nothing to do with yarn really, that's these suitcases. Let's see if I can carry them all. And they're so cute. So these are just like, you can get these on eBay and Amazon and all those crappy pages. And just super cute vintage suitcases. And I'm of course using these to store my knitting. So the first suitcase, I just have some yarn that I am ready to cast on any minute. So I was gonna cast on the shine mittens from the California podcast, which I really love. I think that's a great podcast. So I was trying to decide between this burgundy and grey or this natural white and this mustardy yellow. I had about a like 50-50 vote for each when I asked on Instagram, so I think I will go with the yellow because I think that looked really nice in that pattern. And I don't know if mustard yellow and natural white has that much potential for every pattern, but I do think burgundy, red and grey definitely has, so that's my plan. So that's just ready in here for me to pick up also whenever I have some time to cast on more. And in my medium-sized suitcase, it's my box of socks. So it's not box of socks as in box of socks KAL, because I've not finished any pairs for this year, but these are the pairs that I regularly use. Yeah, I literally can't remember the name of these socks just off the top of my head, but you can find each of these on my Ravelry project pages, and they are color work. They are roughly the same size, stitch count, everything. I love them, they're nice. So I'm just gonna put all my socks in the suitcase until it doesn't fit anymore. So in my biggest suitcase, and I thought this was gonna replace plenty of space, apparently it's not. That's my mitten suitcase, and it's just packed. It's completely packed. I couldn't fit another pair in this. So we got my most recent pair down here, and they're just all in here. And I've got my Kate Davis mitts over here. So these are just fingerless, and I really need more fingerless mitts because I use them more, so I just don't have any apart from these. So yeah, it's just a lovely little rainbow. And I put up this picture on Instagram yesterday. That was like my way of kind of finishing the February yarn love challenge that I've been doing, so I thought I'd save the best for last. So it's just all the mittens in the box. I'm very proud of them. They make me very happy. I just love having them. It doesn't matter if I use them or not. I enjoy making mittens. I find it very soothing yet addictive at the same time. And they're so decorative. I really want to put them all up on the wall. They shouldn't really be living in a suitcase. But I'm still having my kind of irrational moth anxiety after finding those non-moth bugs. So I might put them up when that has calmed down a little bit. Also maybe when I'm living somewhere where I'm allowed to put stuff on the wall, put a nail on the wall, etc. But yeah, I also want to thank people for showing their enthusiasm around that picture, because that was not expected. I wasn't thinking much about it when I made the picture. I just thought, okay, I want to take a picture of all my mittens and put them on the floor in a nice way. And yeah, it was so nice to just have people telling me how much that made them want to make lots of colourwork mittens, and I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I want to hear. Oh, so yeah, thanks. I completely forgot my whole I'm gonna recommend a designer every week kind of thing last episode. There was no designer mentioned that I can remember, so we're gonna recommend a designer today, and this is one of those fellow budding designers out there. So this girl, she's also from Norway. I don't know her personally, but I sometimes go and like nag her about some modifications she does on her patterns because they're always really good, and that's Maria Stricker. So that is Mariah's knitting if you want to be all English about it. And she has got 3 garments up on Ravelry, so 3 patterns that are amazing. Now, well, I've actually never had any concrete plans of making any of them. I have bought each and every one of them. I mean, she's got great discount offers every time she launches her patterns. It's unfortunately been a long time since last time, so I'm always happy to support her patterns whenever they come out. I think they're great, and I think it's really amazing how she just dived right into garment design. I mean, I'd love to do garment design myself, and I'm totally capable of making a jumper that fits me perfectly, but you know, when you make garment designs you have to accommodate for more shapes and sizes, and that's the trick. And she's just gone right at it, and it's incredible, I think. And it's, again, it's one of those cases, she's got a very consistent aesthetic. She's got her style that you can see instantly. Like, you don't even have to guess that it's her design. You can really easily tell. Among the 3 that she has up now, it's definitely the Ease Half sweater that I would like to make the most if I ever come across any yarn and I'm like, yes, that would be grand. And then I'll cast that on. It looks super comfy to just have. She makes it in Holst Super Soft, which is a yarn that I really like, and it's super affordable for those of you who wants to try pure wools but don't necessarily have the finances to get the stuff that you might get in your local shops. And while I really do think it's super important to support your local shops, I totally understand if you can't do it. So Holst, I think, is fabulous. So yeah, back to these designs. I will readily admit I have not made any of them yet, but I have the patterns and I can tell you they're really good. And I think it's just a very lovely style, and I think everybody should know about these designs and this designer, and just look out for when there are more designs coming, because I am very excited to see what's coming next. So yeah, that was my little recommendation for this week. Hopefully that was someone you have not heard about, and yeah, that's something for you to cast on during the year. And speaking of casting on during the year, I have been talking a bit more about the very distant future Provisional CO, which is not what it's going to be called like indefinitely. It's just for now we are talking about it, and people can buy their yarn now, but there's no sweaters being knitted until either summer or autumn. I'm thinking more and more that it's going to be autumn now. But yeah, just be prepared if you want to join. We're going to make Mario sweaters. I'm still thinking about the rules. I've already thought about maybe changing some of them, because there were some patterns I'm allowing, but in hindsight I'm thinking maybe not. So I might change that a little bit, but I think most people will opt for the standard sunless garn Marius designs, and that's absolutely fine. All of those will be eligible, adult sized, or you know, I'm allowing teenage size as well, because I want them to be comparable. It's not a fair contest if everybody's like, if most people are making maybe big garments and then some are having an equal chance of winning if they make something super tiny. So we're just doing a adult sweater along for the Marius pattern. If you have any requests or wishes or something for that, then I am happy to take that into account. It's still in the planning stages. I just want to throw that out there. I didn't really get many questions for my questions and answers. I just decided I'm gonna answer this one. That's a rather personal one, so if you are just interested in the knitting talk, then that's over. Thanks for watching. I'm just going to get into that one question that I had about my PhD. So someone was asking what I'm doing for my PhD, and asking a PhD student about their PhD is a very brave thing to do, because during the course of the PhD we get very tense about it, and it's like, oh come on, oh it's my project and I'm responsible for everything, and it could go really bad or really well. Like, it's just a source of stress. So what I'm doing is, I usually say, when people ask me, I say decision-making psychology, because if you say psychology and you're saying you get like a doctorate degree in psychology, people go straight into clinical psychology and think that's what you're doing, and I'm not going to be a clinician. I am doing decision-making psychology, and it's also the same thing that people refer to as behavioral economics, except when people say behavioral economics, most of the time it's actually psychology. It's basically a term that's been invented to appeal to economists about psychology, because historically economists and psychologists have not really seen eye to eye. Economists have their own model for how things should be and readily assume that that's how it is, and maybe on the grand scale that works and they can predict finances, but it doesn't always work. And you know, we had the financial crisis back in the days, 2008, and that's probably what gave rise to behavioral economics, because then we had to find out, okay, what's actually making people make these decisions that are clearly not rational, because we had this very, you know, bad outcome. People were obviously not doing good things, and that's kind of the area of behavioral economics. But I'm very much in the psychology camp there. So what I'm doing is research on delay discounting, and delay discounting falls into the area of judgment and decision-making psychology, so that's what I like to refer to it as, that. It's also called temporal discounting. It's also very easy to explain in terms of delay of gratification. So many of you have heard about the study where they have this kid sitting on the table, by the table, and saying, you know, here's a marshmallow, I'm gonna put that in front of you. If you can look at that and wait until I come back and not eat it, you can have two. However, if you eat it while I'm away, you say, you know, come back, I want to eat this marshmallow now, I don't want to wait, you only get the one. And at some point, you know, during age, they are able to defer gratification and wait so that they can have two marshmallows. And I'm basically doing the same thing with adults and money instead of marshmallows. So just asking like, oh, would you rather have £45 today or £70 in a month or something like that? they're different. You can change the parameters of when and how much, but it's generally to see, do people value something less with time? It's generally the more you have to wait, the less you value it. So maybe, yeah, it's like, I could go on and on about this, and I don't know how interesting it is to other people. Well, some things that I think is really cool, and this kind of what draws me to it, is that we're kind of weird about it. Because say if I asked you, okay, do you want £100 today or £101 tomorrow? I think a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people would say, oh, I don't want to wait for tomorrow for an extra pound if I can get £100 now. Come on, like, give me £100. If I say you can have £100 in 100 days, but if you wait 101 days, you can have £101. Suddenly people are more than happy to wait that one day, because like, what's one more day from like 100 days? Like, that's, yeah. But it's the same thing. It's just the distance between the two is 1 day, and the difference between the two is £1. So we're just not, economically speaking, rational, and I think that's kind of cool. I think it's cool how we have sort of a different way of thinking that kind of follows the logic that it's more human than economical. So this area of research is not something I made up at all, but that's kind of the area that I'm in, and I'm looking at how our ability to think vividly about the future is kind of affecting that, and I'm also looking at different like models that are accounting for this behavior. So some are saying that we are only considering the two options independently. So whatever £1 for you today is worth, and then whatever £3 in 3 days for you is worth, then that's considered individually. You're assigning a subjective value to them individually and comparing those values, whatever those are. But there are other models that say that actually you're comparing the two like point in times together, and you're continuing comparing the two values at those 2 points in time together. And that makes a huge difference. And I'm also comparing that with eye trackers. I'm like tracking where people are looking on the screen on these choices. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stop there. That's basically what I'm doing. After recording this episode, I'm gonna write up my results for some of the studies that I've done anyway. Yeah, hopefully that wasn't too horrible to listen to. It's very dry. Academia is dry. I like that. I like the rigorousness of scientific research, and yeah, that's kind of how it works. So I don't really have much more to cover today. It's been a very short episode. I've only been knitting on 2 things and doing actual work, which is like bravo for me. So I will hopefully see you next week. I'm really gonna try to record on Tuesday before I'm leaving to Edinburgh on Wednesday. So Wednesday is normally my recording day, so maybe I can upload it on Wednesday and have it ready for you on Thursday, and it will be business as usual. Don't know if I'll have it ready for the week after that, so we might actually not skip any weeks, and we might skip 2 weeks altogether. I don't know. I'm just giving a heads up right now. So I hope you will have a lovely week, or 2 lovely weeks, or 3 lovely weeks, and I will see you whenever I have time to make another episode. Bye!